All right, everybody. Oh boy. We're checking in on somebody here who I have not thought about in quite some time. And I feel like many of you guys might not have either. And that's Dave Rubin. Surprisingly, he's still quite relevant. He's pulling like sometimes 100,000 views on a single video uploaded on that day. That's a very good metric of success on YouTube. For a channel that has been doing this right-wing political content grift for so long, he has maintained this very successfully for a surprising amount of time. Now, he recently uploaded a video that caught my eye called Craziest Things Seen by Conservatives Visiting NYC. And we've got an interesting layout here. We've got Michael Knowles and Dave Rubin, and a woman who I have no idea who she is. I guess she's just a conservative, like, pick-me pundit who's going to talk about crazy shit she's seen as a conservative in New York City. As you all know, New York City is a city, a hive of liberals and minorities, a conservative nightmare, if you will. Literally hell to conservatives. They hate New York City. So, I imagine we're going to hear some good old conservative anti-blue city fear-mongering with some pretty clear racism couched in there, you know, subtly. And we're going to be able to pick it apart, and it's going to be funny. I have no doubt the stories we're going to hear, if they're not having evidence provided for them to, like, back them up, are probably not even true. You know, these people have never demonstrated themselves to have a very strong relationship with the truth, so take anything they say with a grain of salt to begin with. Let's watch.
We're going to give Erin some props right up top because she's blowing up on the Instagram and the TikTok. And I saw this video that she put up a couple days ago. She went.
Is this like a new like TikTok Zoomer like pick me lady? Is this a new Chaya Rai chick? Do we have a new Chaya Rai chick? Oh no. Oh fuck. I have such name blindness. I've already forgotten what this chick's name is.
To New York City.
The Instagram. Yeah, to remember, by the way, Dave Rubin, to be fair, he does look quite young. Like, he doesn't really look as old as he is, but he's actually quite old. He's got, like, a husband and kids, and that was, like, years ago that was, like, news. So he's actually quite on the older side. Doesn't surprise me he calls it the Instagram.
That she, I don't know why anyone would go there, but she went to New York City and she put this up, so this is a little intro to Erin.
Welcome to another day in my life as a conservative woman, this time visiting my hometown of New York City, the place where ovaries go to die. It is...
Oh, it's this lady. I've seen this lady's, like, YouTube shorts and TikToks before. Okay, yeah. All right. I see. I know who this lady is.
funny being back because while Florida is a giant
She copies the bee lady's voice. If you know what I'm talking about, you know exactly what I mean.
blue state refugee camp, New York is an actual refugee camp.
Man, I did not know that Dave Rubin was getting as, like, far right on his show. Okay. I thought he was still kind of holding the whole, like, enlightened centrist line, but I seem to be wrong.
Now, since my last visit, everyone around me is still pale, unhappy, masked, and trans. Okay, not
Pale, unhappy, masked, and trans. Is this lady, like, for real? Or, what? Am I supposed to respond to this, like, with an argument? Or even, like, deconstruct it to reveal how it's actually a bigoted thing to say? Because, nah, I think she's just saying it, and they're all about to just agree with what she said and be like, wow, it's so insightful. You know, I think the fact you're going viral right now really shows how what you're saying really resonates with people. You know, you really must be speaking the truth with how viral your clips are going online. You know, these metrics very clearly indicate that you're telling the truth. You know, like, views and likes equals, you know, truth online. That's the conservative motto. Or the Sneeko motto, find truth through funny.
everyone is trans.
Even better.
Everyone's just kind of an androgynous self-proclaimed Marxist who live in their West Village apartments thanks to Daddy or George Soros.
What my favorite thing about these conservative figures is they love to throw around the "you don't go outside" thing, and it's like, dog, if you're unironically claiming that going around New York City, everyone is like trans, androgynous, hippie, left-wing, whatever, you genuinely are either yourself a non-grass touching terminally online weirdo, or you are clearly lying to an audience of people who are and don't know better. If you've been out in public in any of these cities, Seattle, New York, I've been to these cities. I live in Seattle. I walk to go get things, so I pass people on the street constantly. It is not common to encounter someone who is quote-unquote visibly gay or visibly trans. Like, when I say visibly trans, I mean, like, is dressing and presenting themselves in a very trans culture style. You know what I mean? You guys know what I mean. Yeah, there's trans drip, and you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, like, clocking trans people. I'm talking about clocking trans drip. And so, like, even in Seattle, which is a very progressive city, I see more pride flags than I see gay and trans presenting people, at least as this person describes it. This genuinely comes off as, like, I don't go outside, I'm just pulling this out of my ass, and, like, I've heard internet memes about what New York City is like. Yeah, you walk around and everyone's trans and everyone's, like gendered. No. Like, how do people hear this when they live in a city or go outside at all and believe it? Do people, like, really believe this when they go outside and it is not the way these people describe it? Gender nonconforming people make up like 2% of the population. It's a lot of people, don't get me wrong, not so few of a percentage that, like, they aren't worthy of respect and they don't matter, but that is still such a small percentage that you're not going to be walking around a city and everyone you see is gay or whatever, unless you're at a pride parade or a gay bar or something.
Speaking of which, it would not be a complete trip without being held up in traffic by a bunch of jihadi Jains and Hamas holes, so checked that out.
Yes. Freedom of speech is good, except for when people I don't like have it.
The list. And to ward off the liberal spirits, I brought the scariest thing a leftist could see, a pocket constitution. Next stop,
Do you guys remember when conservatives would do the whole, like, I'm drinking liberal tears out of this mug thing, and then, like, that meme died off because it started, like, people just found it very cringe. It just stopped being funny, it started being cringe, and people started memeing it to death. The liberal tears thing. This is literally that kind of humor. Like, here's my liberal tears mug. Okay.
I went to the police station because I figured since they aren't allowed to arrest criminals anymore, I'd see if they could at least put out a radio call to round up all men in the city of athletic build with no wedding bands ages 30 to 39, but they said no, so I...
What was the dog whistle there? I'm sorry, I didn't pick up... What?
Ward off the liberal spirits, I brought the scariest thing a leftist could see, a pocket constitution. Next stop, I went to the police station because I figured since they aren't allowed to arrest criminals anymore, I'd see if they could at least put out a...
Yeah, a really common right-wing talking point right now is that New York City has, like, outlawed the arresting of criminals, and that, like, there's a really... I think it's Utah or something. The governor is refusing to extradite a wanted murder suspect to New York State, to New York, where he's from, where he's supposed to be extradited, because, and I quote, the Republican politician or governor here, murder is just legal in New York now, so they'll set him free if we let him get extradited back there. I think it's best we hold on to him for the safety of everybody. So, like, even governors of Republican states are refusing to comply with the law and extradite, like, criminal suspects because they want to make, like, a political statement about how supposedly New York City is so soft on crime, they aren't allowed to arrest criminals anymore, or whatever.
Radio call to round up all men in the city of athletic.
Mind you, New York City's NYPD is the most funded, like, police department in the world and has a higher more funding and more equipment, weaponry, and, like, soldiers, quote unquote, like, manpower than some militaries of nations.
Build with no wedding bands ages 30 to 39, but they said no, so I left. I went to get a snack and so I looked for another snack, but oh no. And another, and well.
So this is the talking point that, like, in these cities, there's so many, like, black people in such a, like, confined area, because this is obviously, like, getting to a racist dog whistle, that, like, there's a ton of shoplifting and they have to lock up everything to stop the shoplifting. And this is what happens when you have multiculturalism. This is what happens when you have too many brown people. 1350. You know, like it's basically the hint there. You know, the people who are like, if you're like a more moderate conservative, you're just supposed to be, yeah, liberal shithole cities. They have to lock everything up so it won't get stolen. Mind you, it's food. But if you're like a racist alt-righter watching this, you interpret it as, yes, these enclaves of brown people. It's so crime-ridden. They have to lock up the food or it'll get stolen. You know.
Well, you get it. It does feel kind of silly to stand in line and
I like how there's like shit tons of stuff not locked up too. Usually the stuff that's locked up is demanded by the company to be locked up, and it's usually stuff like razor blades or certain chemicals. Hell, they literally started locking up the Tide Pods like that all across the country because of a meme about eating Tide Pods. I don't believe anyone actually ate a Tide Pod. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember a single story of anyone actually eating a Tide Pod. It was just something people joked about, and so they locked up the Tide Pods in case people would do it and go through with the meme. As far as I'm aware, no one actually ate a Tide Pod. People did. I don't remember anyone actually doing it. I remember people saying it was happening and looking it up and being like, oh, there was like 6 cases. If it happened, it was not many, but like, it was a very overblown thing, and they locked those fuckers up. They lock up those Tide Pods now.
pay because I've seen people take things and walk out and nothing happens to them. Still, I do find comfort in the city from our few conservative.
These conservative types literally lose their mind. Like, they cheer on any video where it's like a group of people like beating the shit out of somebody who shoplifts from a store. They love those videos, and the people who do it love that goes viral now because it's like an easy way to get like lauded as a hero among conservatives. Like, yeah, you beat up that poor person stealing that bread. But for the most part, the employees are told not to stop shoplifters because God knows if the shoplifter is armed and could like hurt the employee, that's not what they're paid to do. It's not their job. The stuff will get repaid. It's insured. It's fine. It's the cop's job. But they're going to try to claim this like faux conservatives. Like I said, they make up a narrative. The NYPD is like the most funded police department ever in the world. They have literal like armored personnel carriers. They have APCs, okay? They are fine. They are not incapable of dealing with the crime. The problem is that very, very petty crime, such as like drug possession and shoplifting, is literally politically not a popular thing to ruin people's lives over. So the conservative response is to manufacture a narrative that because in New York City, stealing some bread will not literally end your life and mark your criminal record forever and make it so you can't get a job and re-enter society, and your life is now that of a criminal. Because that is not how New York handles it. It's soft on crime, and we have to create a narrative about how this is a bad thing.
Outposts where the liberals secretly come to eat God's chicken. Finally, whenever I'm back, people open up to me like I'm a priest in a confessional booth, which is all to say, New York, you are super weird, but there are more normies here than you'd think.
Jihadi Janes and Hamas holes. That's solid stuff, Aaron. That's solid stuff.
Thank you, Dave.
I just realized.
You do have to remember, by the way, like 40%, I would ballpark, of conservative content is centered around how creatively you can insult the left. Like, I won't lie and say lefty content doesn't have a strong amount of dunking and insulting of conservatives and conservative figures, but, like, it's mostly insulting for the beliefs, while conservative content is all about attacking the appearance and, like, lifestyle and life and, like, personality and, like, everything about the identity of people who disagree with them. Coming up with insults, like, as creative as possible and buzzwords to use to, like, disregard and insult those that disagree with them. You know, like a lot of it is literally just let's get together. She is literally the smiling Titan. Dude, I think she's like hungry for Aaron's mom, dude. Like what the fuck? Somebody like find what's her name, Jaeger, and toss her in that fucking gullet so she closes those goddamn fence posts. Jesus Christ. Anyway, yeah. Tell me, like, she's literally, like, the smiling Titan. Hold on. Not the hair, but... This is the last thing New York City liberals see when they're crossing her down the street. Oh god, it is her. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's her.
I thought I hadn't seen any of your videos, Aaron. I was watching that one yesterday, I think.
Really?
New York, where
Do I have to show the old home movie from when Michael Knowles was in college where he did a gay sex scene, and it's like him, like in the bed shirtless with like another guy, and they're acting it out at like laying down next to each other as if they just like raw dogged the fuck out of each other's assholes.
where ovaries go to die is one of the funniest lines I've heard in years. And
Thank you.
accurate.
Aaron, in case people didn't fully get it, you live in the free state of Florida. You went to New York, but like,
Yes, sir.
joking aside, it's pretty freaking terrible at this point, right?
Yeah, it's a dystopian.
I guess they had to find a way to like literally show this lady's TikTok and then find a way to fill the last 43 seconds of the video with like nothing babble. There's been no commentary here. It's just show her TikTok, nothing babble, and upload it as a video. Man, these people know how to make content mills. God damn. I really do think the left needs to get more shameless. YouTube rewards shamelessness, and the values we fight for are not evil, like the rights. We need to adopt these like ideas. We need to actually play the algorithm how it wants to be played. Upload as much content as you can. Be shameless. Clickbait. You know, that kind of stuff. I feel like we're too like prideful for our own goods. YouTube does not reward pride, you know? This type of content is literally empty, hollow, nothing. And it does very well.
Place at this point. It is really weird to go back, and it makes me pretty sad. I do like to joke about it, and the video is meant to poke
Non-lib take on Instagram. Damn, she's even trying to like skate off of the name recognition of libs of TikTok.
fun at mostly the libtards. Also myself, I like to make fun
The
of conservatives.
libtards.
You know, it's kind of laughing at both sides.
Making fun at the libtards. She couldn't even pronounce libtards right. She mispronounced it as libchards. God, this lady is a literal walking, like, encyclopedia of right-wing buzzwords dating back to 2014. It's actually embarrassing when she drops one that's, like, 6 years out of date.
There, more so one side. But I do live in the free state of Florida now. I do go back to New York. I have family there. I have friends there. It is a necessary evil of my year. And I made it out alive. And I'm actually currently in the great state of Tennessee, near Michael Knowles, but not too close. And so we're
I was about to say, that does not look like a Florida house by any means. Yeah, I don't care about these people or the, like, fluff they filled in to, like, make it more than 2 minutes long. Jesus Christ, this girl's a massive plant. You guys have to understand that there are so many people out there that are willing to just sell their souls for a quick buck, and the right is one of the easiest grifts on the internet to do this for. Conservative content viewers are wealthy. They have a lot of expendable income. They tend to be older. Some of them are retired. They are one of the best audiences to, like, tap into for a massive grassroots funded, like, explosion of wealth and success online. Have you noticed that so many of the conservative pundits, even mid-range ones like The Quartering and Sydney Watson, have their own companies they've started with their YouTube success? Sydney Watson has her own tea company. The Quartering has his own coffee company. That's just scratching the surface. Obviously, Alex Jones with his supplements. These people make so much money off of their grassroots funding from getting big off of YouTube because they're tapping into such a monetizable, fanatical audience. They literally are able to start independent, separate companies producing and manufacturing a product, able to fund it all and start all that from the ground up as entrepreneurs, as a backup to their YouTube channels. Like, all these people, all these horrible conservative types, even after their channels die, they are going to continue to be millionaires as nameless CEOs of their own little corporations separate from politics, and they're just going to become the guy who's the CEO of that coffee company that you know, and he happened to have been a chud YouTuber many years ago. Do you think it would be viable to say that you sold out but actually do a documentary about how conservative content is made, Xander Hall? Oh, to, like, pretend to sell out to the conservative right and then, like, stealth make a undercover documentary, like, within the conservative sphere? like once they trust you, like capture them saying stuff they wouldn't want made public and stuff like that, but publicly come off as if I'd like grifted to the right. That would be career destruction, but a hell of a sacrifice for a crazy bombshell story. I'm not too well versed on Xander Hall's past. How conservative were you? I was like... The problem with describing how conservative I was is it's hard to like just say an identity. It's better to say what values I held. So when I was getting into politics, I was very much liberal-minded. I certainly had some like chud-leaning biases, such as this idea that like feminism could be really radical, rabid, and man-hating that had been given by some popular media and stuff like that. But generally, I'd been raised to be and had a core set of values fundamentally as a human being of kindness and like respect that led me to being just on the more liberal side. I also wasn't religious and could really never be religious. I just, even as like, I remember being 6 and thinking, like hearing like sermons from religious types and just being like, are you fucking retarded? Like, I'm sorry, it sounds harsh, but like, I remember hearing about Sky Daddy as a 6-year-old and being like, I believe in Santa Claus, and that's insane, you know, like that you actually believe that shit. I just could never fall for the religious shit, you know, and so I was never inclined to be conservative when I got into politics, but it really started the day that Trump won, where my YouTube algorithm was just filled with like anti-SJW content for some reason that day. And for some reason, a video that I'd actively avoided because I thought it was a conservative video and I didn't want to watch it, from Chris Raygun that had like alt-righty then in the title or in the thumbnail, came up in my recommended. And I just, for some reason, I guess I was like doomer after Trump won and I was just like, fuck it. I just ended up watching the video and I found it quite funny and was surprised the YouTuber was not this like crazy right-wing Nazi Trump supporter. He was just kind of like an edgy gamer liberal Bernie supporter who was like sort of tapped out of politics after Bernie lost and just sort of laughing at the state of politics and just watching the fireworks, you know? And I quickly sort of found myself, quote unquote, discovering the truth that, you know, liberals like the left are actually quite crazy. And the reality is you should be an egalitarian centrist, and anything else is falling into radicalism. And that was essentially where I was for quite some time. And then I started to fall in some other types of content. I started to believe in some pretty fucked up stuff. For example, the race and crime statistics. I started to think, that's interesting. It is, you know, 1350. I guess you can't really argue with that. You know, that kind of thing. I never found myself arguing in favor of, like, mass killings, genocide, slavery, anything like that. But I found myself believing in, like, the base-level ideals that would further radicalize anyone else to actual genocidal and horrific ideas. And it wasn't until I found a YouTuber, Destiny, who was competent in debating those beliefs from a left-wing perspective, who would actually engage with them, honestly. No one else was engaging with them. There really was no voice arguing against those ideas that had any platform besides him. It just took seeing that those like ideas were not as ironclad as I'd been led to believe to be broken out of them. And it was a slow process, but eventually I found myself where I am today.